Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the BettingPros NFL podcast. I'm your host, Dan Harris. You can find me on Twitter at DanHarris80. Back with me, thank goodness, is my, whatever you want to call him, co-host, whatever, Matt Perrault. You can find him on Twitter at SportsTalkMatt. Matt, I hope you had a great Thanksgiving. Apparently we made a couple of people mad because we weren't able to get together and do our usual show. But how was your holiday? How you doing?
It was great. I'm great. I'm excited for the week. I'm glad we took the week off. We dodged a bullet. And look, I think we predicted it way back in the beginning in September when we were kind of mapping out what weeks we were going to take off. I think it was always trying to take off the Thanksgiving Day week and then week 17, which is obviously the worst week to bet in the NFL. So I think so far, even though we haven't played as perfectly as we would have liked, I think as to when we took the week off, that was a good week to pass and say, no, thank you.
Now, just a couple of things to clarify. Number one, this one, remember, your other ones, you're in the Circa, you're in the Super Contest. This one only goes through week 16. So we have to take another bye by week 16. So we actually...
even week 16, I would take off.
Yeah. Well, we'll figure it out. We'll get through everything. But yes, You are correct. We did, in fact, move up in the standings by taking a bye week because that's what it was. And there were a couple of weird things like the Saints. Those lines are locked in, right? So the Saints laying 6.5 to the Broncos were locked in before you realized that the Broncos were going to be playing without a QB. So there were, a game or two that we probably could have gone. But yeah, it was not a good week for anybody last week. But let's get into it for this week because it's interesting. You like this slate, don't you, Matt?
Yes.
You do, huh?
I have 7 games that I would bet.
All right. Well, we'll talk about it. I've got a few, but I'm not feeling it like crazy, but we'll get into it. My usual recommendations before we start: join our Discord channel, bettingpros.com/chat, totally free. Just come talk about sports gambling with other people who are also interested in it. Also, check out our prop bet cheat sheet over at bettingpros.com/props. Compares consensus projections to available props in the market generally, but also that are in your jurisdiction. I'm from New Hampshire. The only place I can bet is on DraftKings. So when I go there, it shows me the available props and the best recommendations for DraftKings props. Third, if you want more props, you want more bets, tune in, make sure, Sunday morning, youtube.com/bettingpros. Matt does a live stream, 11 a.m. to noon. He talks about his best plays. We talk about props. I always give him a couple of my props before, on the night before when I do my projections. And again, that's really what I do. I do projections for every player for our fantasy purposes. And that really helps with prop bets. And on Saturday nights, late night, I do a big sweep of them. I go through and then I take a look at the props. I try to give Matt 2 or 3. I think I'm on a pretty good streak here.
Do you do projections for every player?
I do projections for basically every player. I don't go crazy with if I was going to rank somebody as the 115th wide receiver, I have a projection for them, but I'm not willing to go crazy. But yes, I project every player from every game, Matt. That's how we roll. That's how we roll at Fantasy Pros, baby. We don't take anything for granted. That is why I'm the 17th most accurate fantasy ranker in the nation. That's right, man. I don't joke around. That's why I'm up till 2 a.m. on Saturdays redoing my projections. It's all for you, people. It's all for everybody.
I need to get. See, this is. I was talking to my producer on my radio show today.
Yep.
You have not been on my radio show yet.
I know, so it is a big problem in our relationship. If you know why I'm salty sometimes.
I need to fix that. So we're going to fix that next week. We're going to rectify that because it was weird. I was going through and. So my other 2 partners in the circuit in the Westgate, they do weekly appearances. And my producer was like, so why isn't Dan Harris coming on the show? And I was like, you know what? It's a really good point. I haven't had Dan Harris on the show. So we will fix that.
You think I haven't noticed that, Bubba? All right.
We will fix that.
So look, last week, like I said, we did not play in the DraftKings contest. It was our planned week off, but we did move up. So we are basically at, I will call it, in the top 40%. Now, that's not good enough to cash, but here's the deal. Matt and I are 28-27 on the season. So that's 50.9%. That is not going to do it in terms of actually cashing. But if you look right now, Matt, in the money right now are 60%. Now, if we essentially, what we need to really do, we've got 15 picks left because we've got 4 weeks. We are mandatory 1 week buy. So we're going to make 3 more weeks. 5 picks each. This will probably be one of them. We've got to basically blow it out to finish in the money, but it's probably my guess is not how many 14-1. So we basically can lose probably 1 game over the next 3 weeks. So we got to blow it out.
If we go 14-1, we're going to be over 60%, aren't we?
I think that equals 60%. You out there listening, you check. But if we're 28-27,
right?
and we go 14-1, and we're, what is that, 42-28, 42 out of 60. We're going to do this right now. This is riveting podcasting. Hold on. 42 out of 60.
I'm going to say it's 65%.
All right. Well, maybe Matt's right. All right. Oh, wait, you're right. Maybe I'm crazy then. You're right. Maybe that's way more.
Yeah. What is it?
This says 70. So maybe I'm just crazy.
That's way over. I mean, 14. If we close 14-1,
right.
we're going to be up in super contest.
You know what
historic.
All right. You know what I think I did? That's right. Okay. Well, I don't know. Whatever. Okay. We need to do.
Aren't you the math guy?
I know.
Come on now.
This is why I have a model. I make sure my spreadsheets do it all for me. But yeah, okay. That's my bet. Either way, we're going to go 15 out of 15 for the next pick. So whatever. God,
I think I'll say this: if we were to go 15-0 the next 3 weeks, we win the thing.
I don't know about that.
I'm just telling you right now. If we close at 15-0, okay, we win the thing.
Okay.
Now we're not going 15-0.
We're not going 15-0.
Just hypothetically, but we win the thing if we wind up if we're 16 picks over 500.
I know what I did. I put in the wrong number of total picks. That's why I had it totally confused. It's completely my bad. I don't know what we need to do, but we need to do better than we're doing.
Yes.
So let's get started. My bad, everybody. I'm better with numbers, I promise. All right, Matt, as usual, you start us off. Start us off with the pick. Let's see what we've got. What's your number one pick of the week?
7 games I like. Let's just start with the one that I think I like the number.
Mm-hmm.
I like the number that we're getting. I like the team. I like the matchup. I like the injury situation. And I like the historical numbers against this team. The Rams own the Cardinals. The Rams are on the road. The Rams are laying less than a field goal. And I know that road favorites last week and the week before have been death. I totally understand it. Kyler Murray is not healthy.
Yeah.
The Patriots showed it last week that without Kyler Murray, that team doesn't do anything. Okay, you can have Hopkins all you want, but you've got a great DB that can take away Hopkins on this Rams team, and you're left with trying to score and run the football against Aaron Donald and company. This is a bad week for the Cardinals. They're catching the Rams at the wrong time. Bounce back spot from the Rams under a field goal on the road. I love the Rams minus 2.5 this week.
Do you worry? What if Murray is healthy? Murray was not healthy last week. 100% agree. We don't know, though, whether or not this is an injury that's going to linger for the whole season. Do we? I mean,
well, it's a shoulder injury for a dude who's pretty frail.
Yeah.
And he's got a rib thing, too, supposedly. So it's a couple things. It's mounting. He's not that big, and he's got Aaron Donald to deal with.
Yeah.
So I think it's a bad situation for the Cardinals. And historically speaking, the last year in Week 17 and Week 13, it was 31-7 and 31-24, the wins for the Rams.
Yeah. It makes me a little nervous. It's not a game that I'm on one way or another, but it's a game that what makes me a tiny bit nervous. I agree with you. Murray's shoulder, I think, completely changes. You saw it last week, of course, with the way he played against the Patriots. What makes me a little nervous, I mean, the Cardinals blitz a lot. You know what Goff does under pressure. This is like a must-win game for the Cardinals. What are they, 6-5 at this point? It's a must-win game for the Cardinals. I think the Rams are a better team, so under a field goal, I completely understand it. But
it's must-win for the Rams, too, though.
It's true. Well, yeah. I mean,
if they want to win the division, they've got to win this game. I mean, these are games they've got to have, and Seattle's got the easiest schedule of all the 4 teams left to go in the divion.
It's true.
So
it's true.
They've got. I mean, if they want to win the division and they want to avoid, I mean, they're not going to get the 1 seed, but if they want to avoid, not having going on the road, not that it matters this year going on the road, but it's better to play at home than on the road.
Yeah,
you got to win this game. You have to win this game.
All right, I'm going to put it in the maybe category. I will say that 64% of the experts on our bet analyzer are on Arizona. And, just tossing the game up in the air, I kind of, it was a maybe for me. I don't know. We'll see what happens. I could go either way. But I did lean Arizona a little bit just because, again, I thought this would be a game where, it's a home dog. I know it's 2.5 points, not a big deal. But with how much they desperately need this game, with how they blitz, I'm going to put it in the maybe. It's in the maybe pile, so no problem there. For my favorite pick, I guess my number one would probably be the Pats getting a 0.5 point from the Chargers. Now, I know they're
number 3.
What'd you say?
It's my number 3.
Okay. So can we just basically put it in?
Yep.
All right. So what this just comes down to is coaching. I can throw out everything else that's going on. I know Newton's a little banged up. He's on the injury report. That's fine. I know the Pats I feel like we haven't gotten a great read on the Pats this year.
Nobody has.
Nobody has. But what we do have a pretty good read on probably is the Chargers, who at this point the coaching is going to make up for whatever happens in this game. There's such
we saw it in the playoffs, right? We've seen it before when Anthony Lynn has gone up against Belichick. It's been a complete mismatch. And look, they're 3-8. Anthony Lynn's comments this week about the fact that they're not making the playoffs. Have you ever heard a coach say that in the middle of the year?
No.
We're done. Not well, we need some help. We got to win out. They're not mathematically eliminated. If they won every game and they went 8-8, they would have a chance to get in, maybe not get in, but they'd have at least be in the conversation. And Anthony Lynn's yeah, we suck and we're not making the playoffs.
I legitimately think back to Rex Ryan's first year with the Jets, where they lost a game that they assumed that they would win, and he originally was like, okay, I guess we've been eliminated, because he thought mathematically wasn't, and I was like, oh no, you can still go if you win out, including a game against the undefeated Colts, and 8 other things happen. And he was like, yeah, this is going to happen. We're going to make the playoffs. We've got it. And they did. And It was highly unlikely that would happen. But still, the sort of, you're in it until you're not in it anymore.
Right.
But have you ever seen a game bungled like that at the end of the game with what the Chargers did last week, Matt? I don't think I've ever seen that before.
I've also never seen a coach down 10 with 2 seconds left run the kicker onto the field. He had the kicker. Somebody had to remind him, and this is where I think gambling came in.
Yeah.
Somebody got into his ear and said, hey, by the way, the line's 5.5. Yeah. Kick it a field goal. We don't cover.
Right.
Oh, okay. Justin, get back out there. Run a play. He was going to kick a field goal down 10.
Yeah.
This guy is just... Yeah. Get rid of him immediately. If you don't want to do it now, immediately after the year is over, because that is a coveted job. That is an unreal job with Justin Herbert sitting there. Speaking of prop bets, if you want to talk about passing yards for Herbert, I think he's going to pass all over the Patriots. I think he's going to have a huge game throwing the football.
All right.
I think the Patriots are going to bend, don't break in the red zone, and they're going to hold them to field goals. And then on the other side, I think the Patriots are going to be able to move the ball enough and run the ball enough. Eckler coming back is a big deal for the Chargers. It scares me. I'm not going to deny that. But there are some real ticks and tells when it comes to what Herbert does, and I think Belichick is going to take advantage of that. I think Keenan Allen will just be swallowed by Stephon Gilmore. And
you think Gilmore is going to take Allen, though? He comes out of the slot would be my worry about whether Gilmore...
historically speaking, that's what's happened. I'll give credit to I'll give credit to the NFL Network for this, but the NFL Network has the stats of when these two guys, when they play, Gilmore's been on Keenan Allen. I think he's got 3 catches on 15 targets.
Right. Look, you know that what the Patriots do on defense is they figure out where you want to go, and they manage to take that away, and they force you to go to your secondary options. Really, in the end, we don't know what the number is for Herbert, and I love Herbert this week, of course. The only thing that worries me a little bit is the fact that the Patriots are, they have the fewest, nobody runs any plays against them because they run the ball so much. The clock keeps moving and everything like that.
Right.
But we'll get to the prop bets when the numbers come out, of course. Either way, we both like this game. That's one we agree on. Let's go to your next one.
Number 2 for me, I am going to take a number here, just like the Rams minus 2.5. Mm-hmm. That number is 3 for the Westgate. So you get a better number here with the DraftKings. And I like the hook here with the Texans against the Colts.
I can't believe this is the game that you're going to, but go ahead.
Really? So you like the Colts?
Well, I don't like the hook. I agree. And I saw you posted it. I think you retweeted the number in the circa. I think and it was 3, right?
It's 3 in the circa. It's 3.5 in the Westgate. It's 3.5 in the DraftKings.
Yeah. So at 3, I really like it, and I've locked it in at 3 for Indy, actually, because here's the way I'm thinking, Matt. You take away Will Fuller. Have you seen Deshaun Watson's numbers when you take away Will Fuller?
It's big.
Who are they going to throw the ball to?
There's a bigger problem.
Go ahead.
The Colts defense is overrated. And without COVID, with the COVID issues that they've got, still with guys being out, key guys being out due to COVID, these games in the AFC South have been shootouts. They've been up and down, back and forth. Texans are at home. I think it's a 3-point game, and I think it's a hook. I think it's the 3.5, and take the home dog at 3.5 when everyone's going to be on the Colts. By the time this game kicks, I expect this number to be 4, maybe even 4.5 for Indy.
Really?
Yeah, I think everyone's going to be on the Colts. I think the Colt money is going to come pouring in, and everyone's going to look at, because what you're saying, everyone knows the Will Fuller storyline.
Yeah. Yeah.
And everyone's just going to run with this Will Fuller. Without Will Fuller, they stink. Oh, they had problems with, cheating and, big shock. Their strength coach got busted, and now everyone's getting busted. So it's, I feel like the storyline's going all against what's happening. And I just don't trust this Indy offense right now because of the injuries that they've got. And the fact that Rivers is banged up. So, I mean, we don't know. Is Rivers going to play for sure? We don't even know that.
Well, that's fair.
For sure.
I mean, he does have the toe injury. Yeah, he maybe not, but I assume he's going to be out there. But I mean, you can give it to any one of those three backs and just let them run all day long. And I get that they've got problems on the offensive line a little bit. I think Kelly is going to come back. He's practicing fully at least. But I mean, the Texans can't stop the run. Bradley Roby's out as well. I mean, who's going to stop Pittman when they do throw it? I just don't know how the Texans are going to be able to stop Indianapolis in this game. And Watson is fantastic. Maybe David Johnson comes back in this game, but I mean, Kiki QT as your number two wide receiver.
Akins has had a couple of big games. He was kind of silent last week, but he's had
he could have caught 2 touchdowns last week. That's fair. Yeah,
he said a couple. He ripped the Patriots. I mean, a huge game with the Patriots, and it's Deshaun Watson. I mean, maybe it's more Watson running the football, him picking up first downs.
I thought we hated the Texans. I thought that was our thing. I
do hate the Texans. I always am wrong with the Texans, except for spots like this, because I think the Colts. Everybody thinks this Colts defense is this world beater defense, and I'm like,
I mean, they got the roof blown off last game against the Titans. So this seems like more of a bounce back spot for me for the Colts, and the Texans coming off a big win against a putrid Lions team. It almost seems like this is the spot to buy the Colts, not the Texans.
And I think, and that's why I'm going to go against that theory. Because I think everyone's going to be on that, and everyone's going to look at the Will Fuller angle. So for me, I get 3.5 here. I get the hook is a big deal to me, and I like the 3.5.
I like it less than 3.5, and as you said, you think it's going to keep moving and go to 4, and I guess I could see that. This strikes me as something where you're right, the books will be fine to hold it at where it is at 3.5. But regardless, I mean, I can't do it, man. I'm on the other side, so I'm not going to push. I'm not going to debate it like to try to be like, no, let's go on the other way. But I don't think the Texans. I don't think they can roll without Fuller, man. I've seen it too often with what happens, and that was with DeAndre Hopkins. Now you've got just Brandon Cooks, who's a talented player, but man, I just don't see how they stop the Colts on either side without Roby. Roby was like their one guy in their secondary that could really sort of maybe take on a cornerback, even though he hadn't played that well lately. And without him,
why?
I don't know.
We know why now.
Why? Oh yeah, right. We know why. Right. Whatever Will Fuller was having, I'll make me up a little cocktail that I'll take double. But I'm going to go to my next game. I wonder how you feel about this one, Matt, because it involves our two teams. And I know it's the hook, but I don't care that they're going across town. I don't care that Jacobs hasn't practiced.
It's late. 7. It's on my list
For the Raiders.
Yeah.
Yes. So you're okay. Raiders,
because it's 8.5 in. It's 8.5 in the Westgate.
Yeah. Raiders
so it's a full point. The line's 9 already.
Yeah.
It's gonna go to 10, and when it gets to 10, I'll bet the Jets.
Sure. I'm totally fine with that. But right now, Raiders laying 7.5 points to the Jets. Now, what is Aguilar hasn't practiced with an ankle injury? Do we know anything about? I mean, I don't know when that happened.
It doesn't matter to me. I mean, the only thing that scares me is this: all three starting wideouts are back for the Jets.
Yes,
and Sam Darnold. Okay?
They scored 3 points last week with that exact scenario, though, against the Dolphins. They were all back last week.
Oh, I thought one of them missed last week.
No, all 3 were back last week. They scored 3 points.
Huh. Okay. Yeah. I was on the Dolphins last week in the Circa. At -7. Look, I think at 7.5, it's a value play for me. It's the right side, I believe, and I think the line's just going to climb. I think they for whatever reason, it's everyone's going to remember what happened last week. The Jets were the team last year that the Raiders went across the country and got destroyed in week 12. So they've already gotten that out of their system.
Right.
And with how angry John Gruden was after the loss to the Falcons, I'd be surprised if Derek Carr's not coming out and playing really well this week.
Yeah, that was really that's the spot where that's this year's version of last year's game against the Jets. So that's sort of this is a perfect spot for them to be angry and bounce back. I don't care if Jacobs plays. I think Devontae Booker will be more than fine. I think they'll be able. Darren Waller is going to go nuts. That whether or not Aguilar plays, give me Henry Ruggs, give me Hunter Renfrow. It's not going to matter. And the Jets are abysmal. They're just a terrible football team. If you're telling me I can get them at close to a touchdown, even with the hook, I don't care. So great.
Yeah, and the full point of value I think matters too. That the Westgate's at 8.5 and we're at 7.5, so we're getting a full point there. So I like that a lot from a value standpoint and an valuation standpoint. Vegas is telling you that this number should be higher.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, so we've got two so far. That's good. Let's go to your next one.
All right, I'm going with a play that I've gone back and forth with, but our number is different than the number in the Westgate here. Kansas City's minus 13.5. Under 14, given what's going on with the Denver Broncos, and given the fact that there are some real questions right now going on with what the Chiefs are looking like, I like the Chiefs minus 13.5 here to just go and put up a big number and kind of quiet down some people, because they had a chance to just annihilate the Tampa Bay Bucks, and they took their foot off the gas for whatever reason. They've looked bored and uninterested, but I don't think Drew Lock's got much. I don't think this defense is going to be able to stop. And this is a big rivalry game for the Chiefs at home. There'll be some fans there. I just think Kansas City destroys Denver.
And it's Sunday night football, right? Is it Sunday night football?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is, right?
I'm going to lay it at 13.5.
Okay, I don't hate it, and my guess is we're going to put it in. I worry a little bit about the backdoor cover because they do have Kansas City does have a little bit of a history here of not going full out once the game is over.
Well, they haven't covered in 3 straight games.
That's what I'm saying.
They're only 3 again. So I think they're going to hear that. I think that chatter is getting loud, and people are saying, "Can you play 4 quarters? Can you keep your foot down for all 4 quarters without being bored and disinterested?" And look, they only had 101 yards in the second half of total offense against Tampa. Yeah, well, that shouldn't have happened. They should have been up by 40 in that game.
As somebody who had the Bucks plus 3.5, I was totally fine with it. But yes, I get it. Go ahead.
What a lucky
guys! Totally fine. I'd rather be lucky. That's fine. Yes,
totally fine. But a gift from the referees.
Like I heard. Hey, you know what? By the way, this is a good plug, Matt, for the Daily Juice, because one of my favorite episodes was this past week where you were talking about that game and the Chargers, and you were breaking that part of it down as well. Even though I think you won because you had the teaser on the Chargers.
Yeah, I won that bet, but both those bets were done because I think that there are some real concerns with referees not wanting to be the story.
Yeah.
And so they're petrified of. I'm not saying they're fixing games. I'm saying they're scared to be the story.
Right.
And so they were afraid that they had just done that Patrick Mahomes pass interference call and that they were going to be the story because it was going to be a field goal by the Chiefs, and then the game is over, and the primetime afternoon slot, no one's watching anymore because the game's over.
Yep.
So they want the drama. And the way to get the drama is to keep that game within 10 points.
Yep.
And so they threw flag, and they weren't the story anymore. It was the near comeback, and the Chiefs became the story.
Yeah. So I'm going to put that one in pencil. My guess is that's going in, but okay. I'm totally fine with that. And from a purely personal standpoint, there are a few things I enjoy more, generally speaking, than betting on Mahomes. Now, I haven't done it in a few weeks, so that's probably why I feel that way, considering they haven't covered. But yeah, I think that's going to be one that we'll put in. I'm fine with that. How do you feel, Matt, about one of the next ones? Now, I actually kind of went back and forth a little bit on this. The spread, though, it's under a field goal. I realize it's a home dog, so you think about that. But the Saints minus 2.5 against the Falcons, I've kind of analyzed this both ways. I don't think that Julio Jones is going to play in this one because he practiced on Wednesday limited, then he was out today from practice on Thursday, which isn't usually a good sign. And if Jones doesn't play, the team just doesn't play well. Now, I think you can throw out kind of what happened in that first game 2 weeks ago because they didn't even know whether or not Taysom Hill was going to play. And so they didn't know how to prepare necessarily. And Atlanta is playing better. Their defense is playing better. But if you take away Julio Jones, you might take away Todd Gurley, which I don't really know if that matters. I just feel like it's going to be tough for them to hang with them when Sean Payton's kind of got the bye, in his sights at this point. So I would take the Saints laying 2.5 on the road against the Falcons.
It's on my list. And I was talked into it by Eric Eager from Pro Football Focus because I was on the Falcons till
so funny, Matt. I was on the Falcons originally too.
Yeah.
That's so funny that you got.
I was on the Falcons, and then I had a long talk with Eric Eager on my radio show about it, and he basically broke it down like this, and I think it's a fair way of saying it. If you go and watch the first half of the game, because I was on the over for that game, and it's only the second time in the last 20 years where one team scored 43 points and the under actually hit. So. I had 43 points from the Falcons in a total of 54.5, and I missed that bet. That's how bad I have been gambling over the last 7 days.
Right.
That type of once in a blue moon, twice in 20 years type of freak show game happens when I'm on the over and 43 points on one side scores and the Raiders do nothing. if you look at the 43 points, it was all done basically in the last third of the game through turnovers and mistakes by the Raiders.
Yeah.
So 3 and outs and 4 turnovers for the Raiders and a pick 6 and whatnot. You have to get that again if you're going to back the Falcons because their offense did not do very much.
Yep.
So going into this game against the Saints, it's like, okay, how big of a drop-off is Taysom Hill to this year's version of Drew Brees? Not the historic Drew Brees, this year's version of Drew Brees. And up to this point, I haven't seen that big of a drop-off with their offense. Different guys are getting the football, but their offense as being able to produce has not had that mediocre, fall off the table. Taysom Hill can't play the position that people thought was going to happen here. I'm laying less than a field goal, and I got the Saints defense and Matt Ryan without Julio Jones. Yeah. Saints minus 2.5.
I mean, I think it's a little weird because I don't feel like I have a good sense of how to analyze Hill. Yeah, this last game against the Broncos you can throw that entirely out. Like, right? They
Agreed.
scored a touchdown and this game is over. So that's really all it was. I'd like to see Kamara get more involved. I mean, he had barely involved in the passing game in all the past couple of games. But I think when he needs to go beyond just the, running quarterback that he's been doing so effectively. I think he completed 18 of 23 in that first game against Atlanta anyway. He can throw the ball. He can throw the ball to Michael Thomas. So it just, it's funny because originally I was also on Atlanta, but the more I kind of dug into it, especially again with the pessimistic reports here about Jones and maybe Gurley, I would rather just take, a team the same. If anything, like I'm happy to rely on the Saints defense. It's been playing well and I think they're going to have a good game here. So, okay, I'll put that one in then. That's good. We're on the same side. Go ahead. You got any more that you like?
One more, and I'm fading myself because I want to take this team because I have been profitable with this team. I like this team a lot. It was my team of the year coming into the season. But I'm going to take the 5.5 with the Browns against the Titans.
Wow.
And I think this is a low-scoring, I think this is a fast-moving game. You're talking about both teams that are just going to line up and run the football. And it's Chubb versus Henry. Mm-hmm. And I think it's a 3-point win for the Titans. It opened up at 3.5. It's been bet up to 5.5, now to 6 at some books. And it's climbing. I just think at 5.5 and 6, I just think you take the points here and take the dog and look for a 24-20 win for the Titans.
Interesting. So I actually, I don't have a lean whatsoever on this game. Like I really don't. I don't know how to feel. I knew we weren't going to be talking. Frankly, I thought we just weren't going to be talking much about this game because it was a 5.5. So I knew you couldn't take the Titans because I know you hate doing that with any favorite laying 5.5. But I didn't think that you'd go against the Titans, especially not how they live there. I mean, I don't know how good the Browns are. This is really,
I agree.
Right? Don't they have a negative point?
They don't need to be good here. They just need to keep the game close. I don't even know win the game. But I think if it's 3, I'm all over the Titans. 3.5, I might even take the Titans. But at 5.5, I just think it's a numbers play for me more than anything because everything is screaming the Titans at 5.5, and I think it's going to be one of the more popular plays of the week is going to be on the Titans. Okay. So I'm fading that feeling. I'm fading that momentum because I think the Browns have the ability to run the football and keep it close and keep the football away. And the Browns do have a negative point differential of 21 points. And the Titans on the other side, the Titans are plus 39. Right. But I just think that the Browns are giving up 286 points a game. That's not horrific. It's not great, but it's not horrific. They're scoring 265. But, I mean, they're 5-1 at home. They're 3-2 on the road. Are they overrated at 8-3? Of course they're overrated at 8-3. They're not going to win this game, but I think they can make enough plays, given the fact that I think both teams are going to run the ball a lot, that I think there's a chance the game is close.
Okay. Well, I don't hate it. I want to put it on the potential list for sure because you kind of talk me into it. I like where your head is at, and I think it does make a lot of sense. There's going to be so much running in this game that it's just going to be ridiculous. I don't, I hate relying on Mayfield just because watching him miss some of those throws in the end zone just pisses me off. But I will say that I think it's probably going to be a field goal game. Does make sense, especially, I also kind of like a little bit selling the Titans after that ginormous win last week. I feel like they could come down there. So I'll put it on the maybe list. I like it. All right. Do you have any? That was it, right? That was your last
Those
game?
Are my 7. Yep.
All right. So now I don't have any others really that I was leaning towards one way or the other. So let's talk through a couple of the other games. Let's see maybe if by talking it through, we like any of them. Let's start. And I'm surprised, Matt. I'm surprised that one of the games that you are not taking is the 49ers getting 1.5 against the Bills. I thought you would love to fade the Bills in this spot.
I can't hear. I can't touch the 49ers. What are they?
I don't know.
What
I
are
don't
they?
know.
I don't. Certain weeks they rise up and it's like, oh my gosh, they actually can run the football. And other weeks they can't tie their shoes.
Yeah.
So like they
have Mostert back now, so
which is big. Yep. That's
and
gigantic.
their defense, obviously, they got Sherman back, so they got a little healthier at the defense. Now, I don't want this game, Matt, but if there were a side, I would take the 49ers. It's on Monday Night Football. Now, they're not home. I don't really know whether or not that matters, right? They're playing in Arizona.
I have no idea what that means. I mean,
right.
How do you? I mean, I think that actually is a good thing for San Francisco to kind of get out of there and just be. It's just play the game. That's it. And I think the first game of the two is probably better than the second game because just reading the reports that the players aren't allowed to be around each other except for they can't communicate except for Zoom.
Yeah.
So, I guess Kyle Shanahan said to the team that please let him know if any players are having mental problems and they're breaking down, which I don't think happens in the first week, but could happen in the second week.
Okay.
So, I may be more concerned about next home game than this home game.
All right.
But, I mean, it's the Bills on the road. It's the Bills with Josh Allen who throws picks.
Yeah.
The number to me, you would think this number is higher, okay? You would think. So I think the books right there are laying the groundwork for a bit of a trap. And I think everyone comes in on Buffalo heavy and then watch San Francisco win the game outright.
Right. That's kind of how I thought. I thought that this might be a game where the number set at begging people to bet Buffalo, in my mind. I mean, maybe
it is, but I mean, to go ahead and take Nick Mullins and say Nick Mullins is going to, I mean, what?
I am not pounding the table for this game. I will say, though, that I would be on the 49ers if we want to go one way. Like, if you came in and said the Bills, which, of course, I knew you wouldn't, I would be like, whoa. I don't feel good about that. But I do lean the 49ers for basically the reasons we're discussing. But, yeah, too many variables. Okay, how about the Bears who are laying 3.5 against the Lions in Chicago?
I can't even, like, what do you do with this game?
Yeah.
So the Lions fire Matt Patricia. I mean, sometimes teams rebound and play, and sometimes teams rally, right? When they
I think that usually, generally speaking, there's support for the notion that teams play better the first game after a coach gets fired.
Yeah. Right. So maybe it's, hooray, ding dong, the wicked witch is dead. Okay. Maybe that works, right? And maybe there's this win one for the Gipper thing. But I mean, the Lions are trash.
Yeah.
Okay. Their roster is trash.
Yeah.
Aside from just the team being coached like trash, their roster is trash.
Yeah.
And the Bears, you want me to pick the I mean, I'm going to back the Bears to do anything?
Yeah.
I can't even no.
I will be honest that I would probably be okay to back the Bears if it were 3 or less. Not when you're over 3, because the Bears, I think, are going to be able to do really to whatever the high end of their limitations are on offense. I think they're going to be able to hit the high end. I think Montgomery is going to be able to run all day long. I think Allen Robinson is going to be in for a big day. And for Matthew Stafford, there's not going to be any Kenny Golladay in this game. I guess DeAndre Swift is going to play. There was all the weird stuff, this morning about how it sounded like maybe he's not out of the concussion protocol. Now it says he is, but he didn't practice with an illness. Who knows? They don't have the playmakers. I think Chicago wins this game. So if I could get it at a field goal or less, I probably would like that. I don't like it, though, over a field goal at 3.5.
Yeah, the line is 3 right now, but not for us.
Correct. The line is 3 right now, the consensus line. If you go to bettingpros.com, you can see it. And I do have it at 3. I have placed a wager, not a large wager, but I placed a wager at the Bears 3. I don't like it at 3.5. That gets me a little nervous, and I'm certainly not backing the Lions under any circumstances. Eagles getting 8.5 against the Packers in Green Bay.
So I have Dave Sharapan, who's a longtime bookmaker, who's been on the Daily Juice a couple times.
He's great.
And he's on my show all the time. So him and I went back and forth this morning on this game because this is, given the last 2 weeks, I wouldn't take one of our valuable 5 picks and use this. But this might be worth a money play for me because everyone is going to be on Green Bay.
Yep.
The world will be on Green Bay.
Yep.
The number is going to go to 10.
Yep.
And I'm going to take the Eagles.
Yep.
I mean, it's 8.5 for us, right?
It's 8.5 for us.
So I thought about it. I mean, I really did. And
if you would come in here and said, I want the Eagles at 8.5, that would be in the contest, Matt. Like, so that's where I'm at it.
I mean, we need a fourth, so I'm not opposed to. I mean, I'm telling you, I'm going to bet this game, and I'm going to bet the Eagles. And Dave thinks I'm insane. He's like, this is nuts.
Oh, really? I thought this strikes me as a game that Dave would
thinks
like.
I'm nuts. He thinks I'm crazy to go against Rodgers in Green Bay like this.
Yeah, that's fair.
And he thinks, like, what are you doing going up against the Green Bay Packers? And, given the fact that Philly can't stop anybody. But I just think that this is an Eagles team. I don't like Doug Peterson at all. I don't like Carson Wentz at all.
Nope.
But you're going to a part of the country where Carson Wentz played football, college football, and you're going into an environment where he needs to go and do something to justify his job.
Yep.
And if he takes Green Bay to the wire and they lose by a field goal, so what?
Yeah.
I think Philly's in the game, and 8.5 is prime for a backdoor.
Right.
Prime for a backdoor.
And that the Eagles, Wentz was fine
last
for a
week.
backdoor. Right. Exactly. Now that's pretty extenuating circumstances, but yes, I agree with that. And really, the way I look at this game is that the Eagles defense is not terrible. I mean, they can stop the run at the very least, and the Packers can't stop the run. And why? I realize that Seattle has a better run defense than pass defense, although they did. I mean, their defense as a whole is getting better right now. But the idea that Peterson came out, and it was 1st and 5 to start that game after the penalty, and he threw 3 straight times, absolutely mind-boggling. I think there's got to be a realization that, like, look, I get that, we want to fix Carson Wentz, but maybe the way you fix Carson Wentz is to establish your running game a little bit with Miles Sanders and everything like that. So I do think they're going to run the ball a ton here against. You saw what Montgomery did last week. I think they're going to run the ball a ton in this game. It's going to drain the clock. It's going to be able to keep it close, keep Rodgers off the field. And I don't mind Philadelphia here. I mean, again, this is sort of the same thing. It'd be like, am I really ready to back a team like the Bears or the Lions or the Eagles? But if you would come and been like, I'm going to put it on the maybe list, and when we get to the final ones, we'll talk about it, I guess. But gross. Bengals getting 11.5 from the Dolphins in Miami.
Can't do it with a backup quarterback on the road.
Yep.
Just can't.
What if it was Tua, by the way? Would it matter? Because it might be Tua, he's going to tell us Sunday morning.
Yeah,
that's the report
right?
now.
No, I'm looking at Cincy more than I am Miami.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
Concerned about Cincinnati scoring. Like, everybody's loving this Miami Dolphins defense, and I just don't know what the Cincy offense does.
Yeah,
it concerns me that all of a sudden that they may get, they may actually be able to put up a number or two. So what do we do if they do that? Like, what happens if Cincy's scoring and they keep it and they lose by 10? You lose. So it's too big of a number for this Dolphins team in my mind.
I'm not taking the Dolphins, man. That's not what I'm saying.
Oh, you're talking about taking the Bengals.
I'm not taking either side, just to be clear. I'm not betting this game or going anywhere near it. But I do think if there were a side to take, certainly if Tua played, I'd prefer the Bengals at 11.5. But I don't know. 11.5 is so many points, Matt. I realize that they looked abysmal last week, and they got a special teams touchdown. So that was one of the reasons why they kept it close. But still, 11.5 points against a team that really, if the Jets could have scored a touchdown last week, they cover that type of spread, right? So, but I don't want to go near it, but that's just where I'm at. If I had to pick a side, I'd go with the Bengals, particularly if Tua starts. How about the Jaguars plus 9.5 against the Vikings in Minnesota?
So who's playing quarterback for the Jags?
For the Jaguars?
Yeah, do we know?
Yeah, it's Glennon.
For sure.
For sure. He's been named the starter.
What is going on with Minshew?
Oh, nothing. The coach is just the worst coach in the world. He's back to being healthy. He's cleared to start.
Right.
And they're starting.
Why isn't Minshew playing in this game?
Because the coach is terrible. I don't have an answer for you. Because they wound up losing by 2 to Cleveland, and maybe he thinks he wants to save his job he thinks that gives them a better chance to win. I don't know.
Yeah, it's
terrible.
That uncertainty is large to me, because what if Minshew gets put in like in the first quarter?
Yeah,
and things don't go well, and all of a sudden he comes off the bench and he starts slinging it, and then all of a sudden Jacksonville's live again, and it's like uh-oh. So I mean, I would lean to the Jags. If I had to take a side, I'd take Jacksonville. But I mean, I don't like Kirk Cousins. You know this.
I do, and I know we like to fade Kirk. This is exactly what. Now, I don't want this game. Just to be clear, I do have them at 10.5. The spread in our contest is 9.5. I have the Jaguars at 10.5 because this is the fade Kirk Cousins spot.
Yes,
this is the quintessential fade Kirk Cousins spot. Now, it's the Jaguars, like an historically bad team that I'm not like, yeah, let's go get them 9.5. That's great.
Right.
But if you're giving me, especially over 10, I am taking that. So my advice, if you're listening, if you can get it over 10.5, yeah, I do think the Jaguars are going to hang here because the Vikings secondary is terrible. So the Jaguars, they still put up points last week. Hopefully they get Chark back. James Robinson is a stud. He's going to get his. So I think they'll be able to keep it close a little bit here. So yeah, I like them in 10.5, but below 10, single digits, I'm just, no. There are other games I'd rather go with. How about the Giants plus 10.5 against the Seahawks in Seattle?
Until we know about Danny Dimes and what he's doing, I mean, do we know about him yet?
So I think the expectation is he's going to miss the game, but he is upping in practice and he's going to travel with the team. So it's possible, but I think the expectation is Colt McCoy.
Yeah, if he was playing, I'd take the 10.5. But without knowing what's going on with Dan, I can't back either side here because Seattle's at home and I like Seattle, but I think their defense is still not that great, and I know that New York defense might get victimized. I mean, everyone's getting victimized right now by the passing attack for the Seattle Seahawks. Right. So I would like to take the 10.5 points if we had Daniel Jones, but since we don't know about it, it's a no play.
And even if he plays, I'm not going to feel comfortable that he's going to make it through that game right now because it would be dicey for him to play. So I agree with you. I would rather just stay away. If he was coming in and fully healthy and this was the line, I'd take it and not worry about it. I mean, Seattle always plays one-score games. That's just kind of what they do with Colt McCoy and the rest of the Giants. I don't really feel comfortable about that. How about Washington? Last two games here. Washington plus 8.5 against Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh.
If I was going to bet this and take this game, okay, if you were to stand on a table and tell me you wanted Washington, I'd go along with it.
Yep. That's how I feel too.
I would take Washington. I think Washington's defense is really underrated. People aren't under, and I think, look, the Ravens gave a blueprint for Washington to go ahead and copy. And sure, you can't script drop passes. I understand that. You can't. But I mean, I think there's something to be said there about having this quick turnaround and having your whole world be thrown up into the air. Playing now, a 5:00 Eastern time start on Monday after playing on Wednesday.
Yeah.
And Tomlin's really angry, but there's not much he can do because you can't make the guys go run hills or something. I mean, he can't do much in the middle of the year with all the pandemic problems. Pouncey, we got to see if Pouncey's.
Yeah, that was the one thing, right?
If Pouncey has COVID, he's out for this game. He's not playing.
Correct.
So, I mean, you're without your signal caller, and you got Chase Young in that defensive line, and without your center. Big Ben has not been moving around all that well. You're talking about one of the better defensive lines in the entire NFL getting after a statue back there at quarterback.
Yeah.
So if I was going to play, if you told me you wanted Washington, I would not fight you on this.
That's actually exactly how I feel. This was one of the games where I was like, all right, if Matt comes in and says, Dan, like this game, feeling it, I'd be like, all right, yeah, I'll put it in. That's fine. And again, they lost Bud Dupree. That's
huge.
It's big. So I don't mind it necessarily. I do feel like the Steelers are.
I like Washington more than Philly.
Okay.
Talk about teams getting 8.5 points on the road. I like Washington more than I like Philly.
All right, so I'm going to cross off Philly regardless when we go through our finals and we think about what we want. But that's fine. I'm okay with that. Last one, Ravens laying 8.5 to the Cowboys in Baltimore.
This is another one, okay? So you're going to get Lamar Jackson back in this game. It's a Tuesday night game. What the? Tuesday night? Are you serious?
Crazy, man.
So we have Tuesday night football. We have a Ravens team that couldn't do anything offensively, but I don't know what Dallas does. I'll put it this way. I think Jackson comes back and has a huge game. Running the ball all over Dallas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I just don't know. I don't know what Dallas looks like. The reason I want to take Baltimore here, but I'm scared to delay this type of number here, just because I don't. I mean, it's what 7.5.
It is 8.5 in the contest.
Oh gosh, it's
7.5 right now. If you go out there and you're trying to bet it, it's at 7.5 right now. It's at 8.5 in the contest.
Yeah, it's just too many points right now for me. I mean, if
that's
it was
how
7,
I feel about it.
If it's 7, okay, but 8.5 screams backdoor, something screwy happening. Ravens making a mistake.
Yeah,
now they're 6-5. That was their season yesterday.
Yeah.
So I mean, losing that was brutal.
They have. I mean, you throw out that they couldn't do anything offensively. They didn't have Dobbins. Like, obviously the biggest one is they didn't have Jackson. Then they lost RG3, in the middle of the game. Not that he could really do anything anyway.
Why didn't McSorley start?
I don't know. With the way he looked in that game, I know. I mean, I think what they basically thought is, look, it's going to be RG3 running the exact same offense that Lamar Jackson can run. Not as well,
right?
But he runs the exact style of offense that we run, and so that's what you want to do. You don't want to, say like,
my point was, isn't that what Pittsburgh prepped for?
Yeah.
And they prepared for that offense. So why not throw a curveball at him and throw McSorley, or at least like throw a package or two together and have McSorley out there throwing the football, because he looked way better throwing the football than RG3 did.
It's pretty crazy what RG3 is now, right? Like how amazing he was when he came out of college. And I was explaining it to my son, my 7-year-old, and just he was like, that guy's not very good, Dad. And I'm like, yeah, I know. But there was a time where he was like amazing and totally taking over. Yeah, for me, look, they've got so many question marks, especially as we're looking at it now, and we probably won't know by Tuesday even. I mean, they've got injuries all up, the offensive
and
line.
COVID problems.
Right, they've got COVID problems, but also injury. I mean, I think I wasn't paying that close attention to that game by the end because, goodness, it was unwatchable almost. But you had, I think maybe it wasn't Humphrey, but Jimmy Smith left.
Yes, he left the game, yes.
And
Humphrey
I thought
left
somebody...
the game too. Like every big name player in defense left that game with an injury.
So it's just a game where do I think if you were like, you have to choose a side, I would take the Ravens at 8.5, because I think they're going to have a bounce back spot eventually. And I just don't think Dallas is very good, but not for this contest. Yeah. Okay. So that's every game. So let's talk about the 3 that we have definitely agreed on. And there's a 4th.
There's 4.
The Chiefs, is that the 4th?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, I'll put the Chiefs in. That's fine. The Chiefs were sort of like, I'm penciling it in, but I'm not petting it in. Pats, I guess it's getting a half point from the Chargers. The Raiders,
are they really? They're getting a half a point?
I always mix it up half the time.
I think they're laying half a point.
Are they laying half a point?
I think so.
Check my messages to you while I do this. Hold on, I'll look at it right here. The Pats are getting half a point. I'm right.
Wow.
The Pats are getting half a point in our contest.
They are.
Yes, I am infallible. I make mistakes all the time.
The Patriots are now -1.5, so you're getting 2 points of value there.
That's what,
I like it even more.
Everybody's going to take the Patriots, and they should. I don't care if it's going to be a public play, because I'm just, to give me the coaching edge. I'll take the coaching edge, and I'll go home with my winnings. Pats getting half a point from the Chargers. The Raiders laying 7.5 points to the Jets. The Saints -2.5 points. The Falcons, the Chiefs laying 13.5 to the Broncos. So we've got one more.
We need a dog. Yeah, we need a dog.
We need a dog. Okay, so the dogs that we are considering are, the other games we were considering were the Rams laying 2.5 against the Cardinals, which I don't love completely. So we've got 2 dogs then to choose from. The Browns, and I'm okay to do this one because I think you like this one a little bit. Yep, the Browns getting 5.5 from the Titans, or it looks like Washington getting 8.5 from the Steelers.
You're going to have to break that tie because I like them both the same. I like them both the same.
Do you really like them both the same? Because it sounded like you liked the Browns a little more.
They are. They're on my list for number 5. But remember why I'm picking because I'm fading myself on that.
Right.
Because I want to take the Titans. I had to slap my hand because it's 5.5 and I hate that number in contests. I want to take the Titans, but everything is screaming Titans, and that means we have to take the Browns, or at least I do, because this is just, the public's going to be riding this, saying Baker stinks, the Cleveland Browns are overrated, Titans just annihilated the Colts, so it's going to be a big public play, so I'm going the other way, and I'm taking the Browns. The under-the-radar play will be Washington against Pittsburgh, because I think it's either Pittsburgh or no play for most people.
Yeah, and it's interesting because this is an unfortunate part of it's like buying high on Washington because of the big Thanksgiving performance, and I really don't want to do that. But their defense is legitimate, absolutely legitimate, and given the fact that the Steelers are having trouble stopping the run after they've lost Devin Bush, oh man, this is close. Okay, so this is one, and I know we don't like to do them, Matt, but we gotta let these marinate a little bit. So
I'm with swapping out this week.
Okay.
It's getting late in the year. I mean, there are things, especially on a Monday night COVID situation. Right. If there are big issues with Cleveland or Tennessee for COVID, we can switch to a Monday night Washington. We have the extra day.
Yeah. Okay. So for right now, our unofficial pick, it's going to be Washington, and the reason really is the fact that I could see a scenario where the Titans just completely blow the roof off, Henry runs for 2 giant, monster runs. AJ Brown breaks a 70-yard touchdown early on, and the Browns are down 14-0.
Right.
And suddenly they're like, oh no, we can't run this.
My brain is saying that. I'm telling you right now, my brain is saying Titans big, and I'm fighting myself because this feels too easy. And whenever that happens, I always want to check myself and take the other side.
Right. Yeah. I think let's put in Washington for now as our 5th pick, getting 8.5, and this is a good mix of we're mostly favorites, but it's a pretty good mix, and I don't think we're going to be too public in all of these plays, but we'll see.
We're going to be public, dude.
Yeah, you're right. As I was looking at it, I was like, well, we're going to be public. Wait, the Chiefs.
It's okay. But
I was like, wait, the Chiefs. We're going.
If you want to go real
Jets.
anti, we just go take Philadelphia, take Washington, take the Jets.
Man, the books had a huge week last week, right?
Last 2 weeks.
Yeah. So they're due for a mini correction, right?
That is correct.
A mini correction. Okay. Anyway, look, you guys know what we do. I will put them on Twitter, what our final picks are when we make them, which is usually Saturday night. I don't worry about anybody following us or whatever if they're in the contest. So I'll put that up. Then we'll talk about, Matt will talk about our picks on youtube.com/bettingpros on the live stream Sunday morning, 11 a.m. to noon. But this is good. And we've got some options here if we decide that we don't like. But again, this is the time of the year. You're right, Matt. Like, nobody could have predicted what happened, that the Broncos were going to be playing without a quarterback. Like, there can be developments, of course, at this time of the year with COVID. But for now, you feel okay with this, Matt?
Yes.
All right. Very good. So do I. All right. So that's going to do it for today's Betting Pros NFL podcast. We'll be back next week, of course. Check out the Daily Juice, Matt's great podcast. And again, bettingpros.com, youtube.com/bettingpros, where you can check out Matt's live stream on Sunday morning from 11 a.m. to noon. Until then, we will talk to you next week, same time, same channel.